Hi, everybody, and welcome to Alex Erm's Clips. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's worse, the cheating itself or how the cheater reacts to getting caught. The person in today's story found themselves in a tough spot like this, but thankfully, they handled it the right way. We had been married for 33 years, a lifetime together, with 2 kids and 2 grandkids who were the light of our lives. Our love story began in the 80s, in a nightclub where I worked as a bouncer. She caught my eye that night, and after our first date, things moved quickly. Within 2 months, we were living together, and 2 years later, we were married. Life was good, filled with work, raising children, and making memories. As the years went on, though, life took its toll. I transitioned from a physically demanding job to a more sedentary one, and with that came significant weight gain. It got so bad that I couldn't even make it through sex without having an asthma attack. We tried to spice things up, but it was tough. Despite the struggles, our commitment to each other never wavered. Having been cheated on in the past, infidelity was a hard line neither of us ever crossed. We were each other's everything, and after 33 years, my love for her had only deepened. After 2 decades of a nearly non-existent sex life, I made a decision to change. I wanted to be there for our grandkids as they grew up, to improve my health, and yes, to rekindle our sex life. So I took action. Over 2 years, I lost a staggering 80 kilograms, 176 pounds, and even underwent a tummy tuck. It may sound vain, but it was a decision rooted in love and the desire to rediscover the intimacy we had lost. And it worked. In the last 2 years, our sex life had made a complete turnaround. We were having sex 3 or 4 times a week, and I could tell she was enjoying it. Her body never lied, and we both felt like we were finally getting to truly enjoy each other again. She would often say she was still in love with me, and I believed her because I was still very much in love with her. I never doubted her faithfulness, just as she never doubted mine. We were open with each other about everything, from our phones to our emails. We even had apps that let us see each other's whereabouts, but it was never about distrust. It was about safety and staying connected. Even when I lost weight and started attracting attention from other women, I brushed it off. I was a happily married man, and I made sure my wife knew how much I loved her, telling her every day how beautiful she was, no matter how she felt about her own appearance. But then, 3 days ago, everything changed. I had just finished work and was on my way home when my phone rang. It was my wife, and she sounded distraught. The moment I heard her voice, my heart sank. She asked if I had spoken to my sister-in-law, and when I said no, she hesitated before blurting out that she had cheated on me. The words hit me like a freight train, leaving me numb in the driver's seat. She explained through sobs that she had been on a holiday with her 2 sisters. While out one night, they were joined by a married couple, and the drinks kept flowing until 2 a.m. Her sisters had gone back to their room, but my wife stayed with the couple, continuing to drink and chat. The couple was incredibly complimentary, telling her how sexy she was and how lucky I was to have her. At some point, the man started touching her, and with the encouragement of his wife, things escalated. They assured her that no one would ever know and urged her to just enjoy the moment. She told me it felt like she was outside of herself, but before she knew it, she was having sex with the husband while his wife watched. The next morning, she woke up in their bed, the 2 of them asleep beside her. Horrified, she ran back to her room where her sister caught her. Unable to keep the secret, she confessed everything to her sister, who then insisted she tell me or else she would. And so my wife called, crying uncontrollably, begging me to forgive her for what she called a terrible mistake. I sat there, stunned and heartbroken, listening to her tearful pleas. My world had just been turned upside down, and all I could do was sit in my car, feeling the weight of betrayal crushing my chest. When she told me she cheated, I was left in a state of shock, utterly numb. How could she throw away everything we had built over 33 years for a moment of weakness? Her voice was filled with tears and regret as she kept saying how sorry she was, how much she hated herself for what she had done, and how deeply she loved me. But I couldn't see it as a mistake. I told her it wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate choice. After saying that, I hung up the phone and turned it off, unable to bear hearing another word from her. When I got home, I just sat in a chair staring into space. trying to comprehend what had just happened and what was going to come next. My thoughts were racing, and I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. Loss of the woman I thought I knew, loss of the life we had shared, and the future I had imagined. The reality was sinking in that my life as I knew it was over. For 2 days, I shut myself off from the world, trying to process the betrayal. Eventually, I turned my phone back on, and it immediately flooded with messages. There were countless texts and missed calls from her and her sisters. The last message said she was on her way home. My kids had also been trying to reach me, worried because their mother had called them frantic, asking if they had heard from me and if I was okay. I finally called my kids, reassuring them that I was as okay as I could be under the circumstances. I told them that I would be leaving home for a while to sort myself out before she returned. I asked them not to tell her where I was going. I needed to come to terms with the end of my marriage on my own terms. Afterward, I sent a brief text to my wife, telling her that we were getting a divorce, and that I didn't want to hear from her anymore. I didn't care about the details. I just wanted her out of my life. The pain I was feeling was indescribable. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that the love we shared could be shattered so quickly, so completely. As I write this, my mind is all over the place, jumping from one thought to another. There's so much swirling around in my head. A few things need to be clarified. When I said we had a dead bedroom, I didn't mean it was completely lifeless, but compared to the past 2 years, it certainly felt that way. Before all this, I had an active job in the military, but I got injured during a training exercise which led to a desk job, and eventually I was medically discharged. My wife and I then bought a small business together, and life took on a new rhythm. Before I spoke with my wife, I had a long conversation with my sister-in-law and her husband. The story my wife had initially given me was already devastating, but what she told her sister was even worse. My kids were horrified by what had happened and wanted nothing more than to support me. I made sure to tell them that, despite their anger, she was still their mother and the grandmother of their kids. Her actions didn't change the fact that she loved them deeply, even if it had destroyed our marriage. My wife and her sisters cut their holiday short and returned home. Before she got back, I left her a note, telling her to pack her things and go stay at her mother's house. She did as I asked, but the details of what really happened were even more disturbing than I initially thought. My wife hadn't confessed out of guilt. She had done so under the threat of being exposed by her sister. And even then, she hadn't told the whole truth. According to her sister, my wife broke down and revealed everything. She claimed that she loved me and cherished our marriage, but after the past 2 years of us rekindling our sex life, she began to wonder what else she had missed out on. She had always been the attractive one in our relationship, but with my weight loss and newfound confidence, she felt the roles had reversed. Her insecurity led her to seek validation from someone else, and she admitted that this was the first time she had ever acted on those feelings. But she also confessed that it was premeditated. She had planned it as a fantasy she wanted to fulfill, scratching an itch she never intended to tell me about. What she hadn't told her sisters was that the couple she met up with were actually customers of ours from out of state. Though I had never met them, she had spoken with them over the phone many times. The whole thing was orchestrated before the trip, with her sisters tagging along unexpectedly. They pretended to be strangers until their sisters left, and then things escalated. She had been drinking, but she wasn't as drunk as she initially claimed. It was all planned out before they even left for the holiday. This afternoon, she's coming over to talk. Apparently, she's beside herself, terrified of what will happen next. But honestly, I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at her the same way again. As I prepared myself for what needed to be done, my mind was resolute. She made the decision to cheat, and now everyone in our lives would feel the consequences. The more I learned about her betrayal, the deeper the wound grew, and the stronger my resolve became. I didn't cheat. I didn't force her to lie. The reality that she's lost me and our marriage is something she will have to live with. And frankly, I don't care how miserable she is. This situation is entirely of her making, and now we all have to navigate the wreckage of our lives. First, I want to extend my gratitude to the 99% of people who offered their support. It's been a lifeline for me in these dark days. For those who blamed me, I hope you find peace with your own issues, because I've got enough on my plate without worrying about your judgments. This is going to be a long post, but once I started writing, it was hard to stop. Getting it all down felt a bit cathartic, like a weight lifting off my chest. This will be my last update for a while, but for those who are interested, I'll post again in a few months to let you know how things are progressing. Yesterday, I finally had the talk with my wife. After so many years together, we've grown accustomed to sleeping side by side every night. In fact, we've rarely spent a night apart in decades. But last night, for the first time, I had a great night's sleep without her next to me. When she walked through the door, she looked like a mess. Exhausted, guilty, scared, and with eyes red from crying. Normally, seeing her like that would break my heart, and I'd want to comfort her. But not this time. I was sitting at the kitchen table when she walked in, already in tears, and rushed toward me for a hug, blubbering apologies about how sorry she was and how much she regretted what she had done. I put up my hand, signaling her to stop, and told her not to touch me. I pointed to the chair across from me and told her to sit down. She did as I asked. I asked if she wanted a coffee, as I was about to make one for myself, and she nodded. Her eyes never left me as I made the coffee and returned to the table. As she opened her mouth to speak, I cut her off. I told her to be quiet and just answer my questions. This wasn't about her or her feelings anymore. It was about me and what was left of our marriage. I informed her that, as far as I was concerned, we were done. She had made her choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. I had already decided on divorce, but I wanted to see if she could give me some semblance of the truth, thinking that if she believed there was still a chance, she might be more honest. I told her that I had spoken with her sister, which was true, and that I had also spoken with the couple she cheated with, which was a lie. But she didn't know that. Watching her squirm under the pressure of my questions gave me a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, I was glad she was so upset, but on the other, I was sad for what we had lost. Along with that, I felt disappointment, anger, and a whole range of other emotions you'd expect in this situation. But despite all of that, I was surprisingly calm, and I could see that my calmness was what unnerved her the most. It was like I was conducting a job interview, not discussing the end of a 33-year marriage. I asked her how many times she had cheated. She claimed it was only once physically, and twice through video chats. I told her to explain exactly how it happened. Through her tears, she confessed that their business conversations had gradually turned into flirting. When the other woman, the wife, gave her approval and even got involved, things escalated over a couple of months. It started with her watching them have sex, something that had apparently always been a fantasy of hers. She said it made her feel excited and alive, though she knew it was dangerous. As she continued, she tried to justify her actions by talking about how insecure she had felt. But before she could continue, I cut her off again. I told her I didn't want to hear her excuses or justifications. She fell silent, struggling to pull herself together. After about 5 minutes, I even got up to fetch her some tissues, watching her fall apart in front of me. She finally admitted that they had met up as planned. After her sisters left the bar that night, she went straight to the couple's room. I asked her if she ever intended to tell me. She admitted that she didn't. It was just a fantasy she thought she could fulfill and then move on from, without me ever knowing. She was sure that once it was out of her system, she'd never think about cheating again. I asked her directly if she had cheated on me at any other time during our 33 years together. She swore she hadn't, but I told her it didn't matter whether it was once or 1,000 times. The damage was done, and the result was the same. The only people who would be hurt by her continued lies were our kids and grandkids. I told her I didn't believe her, but at this point it didn't matter. It was too late. As the realization of what she had done started to sink in, I could see her beginning to truly understand the gravity of her actions. I knew from the start that there was no going back. Her betrayal had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. When she came to me, desperate and pleading for a second chance, her words were a mix of regret and desperation. "Please, we can work through this," she begged, her voice trembling. "I'll do anything. You can do anything. I'll let you have affairs if that's what you want. Just don't leave me." I stared at her, barely recognizing the woman I had once loved so deeply. "Do you even hear yourself?" I asked, my tone cold and detached. "You've already degraded yourself enough. How could you think I would ever cheat? And if I ever did, it would mean we were completely done, no chance of reconciliation. But that's not even on my mind right now." She reached out, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away, a sharp edge to my voice as I said, "Don't touch me, ever again." It wasn't that I was judging others for their choices, affairs, open marriages. Those are personal decisions. But that was never us. The trust and respect we had were shattered the moment she decided to let another man into her life, into her body. I had always been practical, and now the overwhelming feeling was one of relief. "We need to make this as painless as possible," I said, trying to sound as unemotional as I could, though inside my emotions were swirling. For a brief second, I saw hope flicker in her eyes, but I was quick to extinguish it. "No, don't mistake this for hope. We're done. I will never touch you again, and I mean that. The woman I loved, the woman I married, she's dead to me. She died the moment you planned to be with someone else." Her body trembled, tears streaming down her face, but it didn't affect me the way it once would have. The good memories we had together, they'll stay just that, memories. The holidays, building our first home, raising our kids, all the laughter and challenges we faced together, they're just moments in time now. We're going to live separate lives from now on. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the future holds, and it won't include you. When I meet someone new, I hope to create new memories, find love again. She broke down, shaking with sobs, but I felt nothing but a strong desire for her to leave my house. She couldn't continue the conversation, so I went to the shed, taking out my phone to call our kids and let them know what was happening. They were supportive, agreeing that dragging this out would only cause more pain. They told me to finish it quickly. When I returned to the house, she was still crying, still trying to make things right. "I'm sorry," she whimpered, her voice barely audible. "We can make this work." "No," I said firmly, sitting down across from her. "We're selling the house and the business. We'll split everything 50-50. You can have the car, I'll take the truck and the motorcycle. The cats are yours." I paused, letting it all sink in. "And don't contact me. No calls, no texts, nothing. Unless it's about the kids or the grandkids. I'll get in touch with the lawyers and start the divorce process. You're free to be with anyone you want now. You're a free woman." She looked at me, her eyes filled with disbelief. "I don't want anyone else," she said, her voice cracking. "You're being so cruel, so cold." "I'm being honest," I replied, not backing down. "Your actions have put me in a place where I can't feel anything anymore. You're the one who destroyed this marriage, not me. I loved you unconditionally, and you're the one who threw it all away." With that, I left the house, giving her space to pack her things and leave. I went to my daughter's house, spent a few hours talking with her, and played with my granddaughter. When I finally returned home, the house was empty, and I had the best night's sleep I'd had in years. It's been 5 chaotic weeks since my soon-to-be ex-wife destroyed our marriage. I've had plenty of time to think, and I know I made the right decision. I could never trust her again, never touch her again. Just the thought of it makes me feel sick. She made the choice to cheat, thinking she could get away with it. Now, she's staying with her mother while I've been preparing the house for sale. We've lived here for 20 years, so there's a lot to clear out, but I've managed to get it done. The house is on the market, and there are already a couple of interested buyers. So I'm hopeful the house will be sold within the next week or two. Thankfully, the business has already been sold. One of our longtime clients was looking to expand, and when they made an offer, I accepted it immediately. The settlement is scheduled to take place in about a month. You always hear people talk about how tough divorce is, but you don't fully grasp it until you're knee-deep in the process. It's a pain in the ass. Where I live, you have to be separated for a full 12 months and 1 day before you can even file for divorce. Then, it takes another 4 months before the divorce is finalized, and that's only if everything is uncontested. Property settlement is a whole separate issue, and it doesn't even begin until after the divorce is finalized. My goal is to have everything settled and done by then, so there's nothing left to argue over. As long as she keeps signing the sales contracts, it will make it easier for me to move on. However, she seems to be thinking differently. My son has only spoken to her once since everything happened, and from what I hear, it wasn't a pleasant conversation. Just to be clear, our children are grown adults with kids of their own. I told him to give it time. She's still his mother, and she was a good one. He shouldn't let her decision destroy their relationship. My daughter, on the other hand, has been talking to her throughout this whole ordeal. She's ashamed of what her mother did, but she's still supporting her through the breakup. My daughter is the kind of person who tells it like it is, honest to a fault, and she hasn't sugarcoated anything. She's made sure her mother understands the full impact of what she did. Despite everything, my soon-to-be ex-wife is somehow deluded into thinking that I'll eventually get over this and forgive her. She seems to believe that the years we spent together will be enough to make me change my mind. When she came over to sign the real estate contract, she looked at me with this strange, misplaced confidence and said, "You'll change your mind. I know you still love me. I'll be a better wife when you do, and we'll still grow old together. This is just a bump in the road, and we'll get over it." I was completely taken aback. I stared at her in disbelief and finally said, "Are you out of your mind? You lied. You cheated in the worst way imaginable. You let another man inside you, and you let his wife watch. How the hell could you think I'd ever want to touch you again?" She tried to backtrack, saying she knew she shouldn't have gone through with it, that she didn't know what she was thinking, and that it wasn't even that good. I cut her off, telling her to shut up. I didn't care whether she enjoyed it or not. The point was, she planned it. She went through with it. And that was the end of us. I made it crystal clear that there was zero hope of reconciliation. I want nothing to do with her, and I'm looking forward to moving on with my life without her. It's like she's in massive denial, unable to accept that this is really happening, that she no longer has any control over my life. She had her chance, and she blew it. She knew what she was risking, and now she has to live with the consequences. It's funny, though. I've been getting a fair amount of attention from other women since the news of our separation got out. I'm not interested in pursuing anything right now, but it's nice to know that when I'm ready, I'll have options. My soon-to-be ex-wife even got angry when she found out that some women we know had been coming over to visit, bringing dinner, just talking. She had the nerve to tell me, "Get it out of your system and I'll be waiting." I mean, seriously, how messed up is that? The only thing I want out of my system is her. The emotions are still raw: hate, anger, disgust, the feeling of loss, betrayal, and sadness. But I'm strong. I'll deal with them. My goal now is to focus on cutting any remaining financial ties with my wife and getting on with my life. 3 months later, and I'm moving fast. The business is sold, the house is sold, and we're legally separated. I'm just waiting out the divorce period, but for all intents and purposes, I've already moved on. I've separated all of our joint assets, and I'm now starting on the path toward my new life. 3 months ago, I would have never imagined that I'd be in this position. I had everything I wanted: a loving wife, a successful business, a great family and friends, and a beautiful home. I was looking forward to spending the rest of my life with my wife by my side. But then, my soon-to-be ex-wife shattered it all. Everything we built, everything we had, by lying, cheating, and betraying the trust we shared. Like any long-term couple, we had our problems, but we always remained true to each other, or so I thought. When she got caught, it destroyed me. The loss of the life we shared was devastating, and I couldn't comprehend why she did what she did. But that's when my life took a turn. It wasn't a choice I made, but rather a path that was forced upon me by her betrayal. I've always been a pragmatic man with strong family values, and perhaps that's what has made this transition easier for me. I decided early on not to let my emotions drag me into a pit of self-pity. I refused to play the victim. It would get me nowhere. With the sale of the family home and the business, and after splitting everything equally with my soon-to-be ex-wife, I had enough to buy 2 small units near my grandchildren. My son and daughter live in different states with their partners and kids, so I chose locations that allow me to have my own space while still being close enough to visit them whenever I want. I'm still working, too. A competitor from my previous business offered me a part-time role, and I decided to take it. The job gives me plenty of free time, which I'm using to start enjoying life again. For a couple of weeks, I didn't have much to do, so I hopped on my bike and just took off. No destination in mind. I'd stop for coffee, do some sightseeing, and at night, I'd find a pub to enjoy a couple of drinks before heading off again the next day. It was liberating, a way to clear my head and just be in the moment. What surprised me most is how much I've taken to the casual relationship scene. I've hooked up with a few women over the past couple of weeks. No expectations, just fun, and no emotional baggage. It's been refreshing, and I'm surprised at how good I feel. Some people have asked if I ever contacted the couple my wife cheated with, but the truth is, I see no need to. I have no desire to engage with them. It was my soon-to-be ex-wife's decision to cheat, not theirs. They mean nothing to me, and I'm not interested in wasting my energy on them. Honestly, the best revenge against a cheating partner is to show complete apathy and focus on living your best life. Sure, the thoughts of what happened still cross my mind, but life goes on. The key is to concentrate on yourself. As for my soon-to-be ex-wife, she's apparently still clinging to some delusional hope that once I calm down or get lonely, I'll take her back. She's convinced that after everything, we'll somehow reconcile. But I've made it clear to her that our marriage is over. There's no chance of reconciliation, none whatsoever. I've told her that I no longer care what she does or who she does it with. It has nothing to do with me anymore, just as my life no longer has anything to do with her. My daughter told me that her mother is still in denial, that she's very sad and embarrassed about what she did, and that she wants her to convince me to take her back. I told my daughter that it's never going to happen. Her mother is only sad and embarrassed because she got caught and because I followed through with leaving her. Life is certainly different than what I expected, but despite everything, I'm really looking forward to the future now. Dear friends, if you're enjoying these stories, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more juicy relationship tales. Thanks for your support.